Since the release of Prism, Raging Onslaught has been a staple of several of my sideboards. But with the release of Uprising, there's a new kid in town, and Fyendal's Fighting Spirit more than likely dethrones the existing budget poppers. The only real downside for use is that it's not a common. So move aside WTR Yellow 6s because Fyendal's Fighting Spirit is going to see a ton of sideboard play for those players on a budget. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. So, I used to call them Prism Poppers, but we can't technically do that anymore because now we're busting dragons, and Prism is likely to go away soon. So I guess let's just agree going forward on Poppers. Anyway, hey there fab folks, and welcome back to Dice Commando and Go Again, the mostest fabulous cast this side of our little corner of the interwebs. Every now and then, a card comes along that you grab as many copies as you can because it's useful and you never seem to have enough copies of the guys to put into all your decks. Sink Below, Paper Scene, Oasis Respite, So I'm curious, let me know in the comments, what cards do you guys always keep? Any personal favorites that make their way into a large number of your decks, maybe that other people don't think about? Let us know. Now, while today's card isn't on the same level as Sink Below or Fate or something like that, it is another card that, as I sorted through my Uprising bulk, I didn't throw away, because I think it's going to be a very useful card for a long time, basically as long as Illusionists are a thing, which will likely be for some time. Now, tonight's video is also somewhat of a love ballad, a farewell ballad perhaps, to the card Raging Onslaught. This card has been a consistent staple in my Dorinthea sideboard since Monarch. I also play it in my Kassai Commoner deck, where it will stay, by the way, since Fyendal's is a rare. But look at this card, right? It's a yellow, it pitches for 2, defends for 3, and it's a popper. And now, while the defend for 3 is something that sets it apart from the other 2 cards in the WTR Yellow 6 trio, Raging Braunhide and Raging Bull, it's not necessarily applicable into how we're using the cards, right, as poppers. It makes perfect sense. Great. It's great in Commoner. Now, the defend for 3 is what makes it better than the other 2. It is inherently nice, but like I said, since its main purpose, moving it in from the sideboard, is as a popper, and it's really only being used in those matches that it needs to serve those purpose, in all fairness, from a sideboard standpoint, the defend for 3 doesn't matter as much. And like I said, in Commoner, that's certainly a thing, and that's why that card gets the recognition there. But now along comes Uprising, and along comes Fyendal's Fighting Spirit, right? So this card, it's basically the same as what we're looking at. It's a 3-drop, it's yellow for a 3, attack 6, but it also, and now it only defends 2, but it does have the ability when you attack or defend with Fyendal's Fighting Spirit, if you have less health than an opponent, gain 1 health, right? Now, as compared to Raging Onslaught, it basically trades the lack of defense, right? It trades the 2 defense for the 3 defense for the conditional life gain. Now, all things being equal, the conditional effect, in my opinion, actually makes it slightly worse than Raging Onslaught. Except, of course, when it comes to popping Phantasms, which is, of course, what we're using it for. Because remember something very important. Phantasm reads, if defended by a non-illusionist attack card with 6 or more attack. And the key there is defended by. Remember, you are considered to have defended with the card, and thus the effect would trigger. And since the entire purpose of running the card is to sideboard in when you want to pop Heralds, kill a dragon, or shut down an Ashwing Swarm, the 2 defense isn't really relevant. Thus, as a popper, this card, in my opinion, is just flat out strictly better. With, again, the exception being it's not a commoner card, right? Now, something you might be saying is through this whole thing, I get it, is that, well, I just run CNC. And I mean, that's totally fair, bro, right? But even ignoring the price tag, the cards we've talked about being the obvious better budget choices, in some decks having yellow pitch is actually better, right? In my Dorinthea, for example, actually most of my warrior decks, I prefer to have the yellow pitch because it lets me swap in 1-to-1 cards like Hit and Run or similar utility cards. And if you're running a weapon-based hero who doesn't have access to a lot of 6s, and you know what, even in Ranger, right? Although in most cases, I grant you'd want to run CNC. But again, if you don't have $180 for a play set of CNCs or something like that, it seems like a pretty optimal trade-off, right? Bringing in that yellow pitch and being a popper, being able to load Death Dealer and fire off an arrow, or load Voltaire twice with a bunch of zeros, right? The yellow is, in some cases, in many cases, well, yellow, I mean, comparatively, yellow is always better than red. I get that. But you see what I'm driving at, right? Being a yellow and having that function as a popper is very, very, very strong here, right? So yeah, look, you never like seeing an old favorite get dethroned, but creep happens and we may as well capitalize it. So I'll keep Raging sleeved up in Commoner, but otherwise, for me, it's on to Fyendal's Fighting Spirit. Thanks for watching today, and go Commando.